My voice is audible to you and you can see my screen, right? Yeah, okay, cool. So this is a sample project that we were like we just created. So in this project, like we have enabled this reviewer flow as well. So anybody who is added as a reviewer, they will be able to pull tasks as a reviewer and then they can work on those tasks. Maybe I'll just log out of this account and just log in as a reviewer account, which we will use for testing this project further. One second. Yeah. So let's say this is the project that we are expected to work on, and over here I can see that there are review tasks tab now. So over here I'm in this project I'm added as a reviewer. So by this it means that I would be able to see this review task tab. Previously it was, let's say if I'm added as an annotator to this project, I would have seen this annotated annotation task tab. Similarly, if somebody is added as a reviewer, they will see this review task tab. One person can be added as both annotator as well as reviewer. In such a case, they would see both annotation tasks as well as review tasks tab. In this particular case, let's say I've added myself as a reviewer, only as a reviewer, not as an annotator. Let's say if you are added as both of them, then you would be able to submit tasks as an annotator as well as a reviewer based on which tab you pull the tasks in. So I will just showcase this thing first to you and then move on to that other case where you are also added as an annotator as well as a reviewer. So now let's say if I just pull a new batch over here, what will happen is, let's say the annotation which are already completed by some annotator would be pulled by me when I click on this pull new batch as a reviewer. Now in this case, let's say if I just scroll down and I see these two tasks assigned to me, if I just click on this review button, then the page that loads over here is, let's say, the annotation which was already completed by the annotator. So this is the version which annotator submitted, and now I am reviewing this. So based on some guidelines, let's say Aswati might have shared some guidelines with you guys. You can go through those guidelines and let's say let's consider one point in that guidelines was, I'm just considering, I'm not let's say I'm not making a claim, but I'm just considering. Let's say one guideline point was to only have a single prompt in a particular task. Right? Let's consider this was there in the guideline. Now, in this case, I can see the annotator has submitted, let's say, two prompts into a single task, right? So over here, we will have to either make the required changes in this task and then accept it. So there are multiple buttons on top of this task. Previously, as an annotator, you must be having only update button. Over here, there are, let's say, revise, and if I click on accept, there are multiple accept buttons as well, right? So what would happen in this case is, let's say I know that there is some mistake in this particular task. I have two options. One is, let's say I can add some notes over here. Let's say in this review notes I can just add some notes. You have added two prompts, please correct and add only one prompt, right? So let's say this is the reviewer's notes which are going to be sent to the annotator once I click on this revise button. So what will happen is, if I just click on this revise button, now this task has been shifted to be revised status. If I just go back to this particular project page, now this task is not anymore there in the unreviewed status. If I just turn around over here in this filter and check this to be revised tasks, and I just click apply over here, I would see that I have sent back some tasks for revision to the respective annotators. Now the annotator email is also displayed over here. So what would happen is, this task will go back to the annotator and they will be filtering their particular table with this to be revised option, and then they will be getting a let's say task displayed over here in the table, and they will have to just open that task and read out the reviewer's comment and make the required changes and submit it back. I will share that flow again, let's say from the annotator's perspective, when I open the same task in a annotator's account, right? So uh, I let's say if I just go to, let's say, unreviewed tasks again, and let's say I start looking into other tasks which are there in unreviewed right now. So let's say this is the task that let's say which was submitted. Now in this case, let's say I'm getting to see that there is again, let's say, multiple prompts entered in a single task. Right. Now let's say instead of giving it back to the annotator, the guidelines, let's say based on the guidelines or based on your judgment, you feel that it would be better, let's say, if you correct out this task yourself and not let the annotator bother about it. Right. Let's say, let's consider this is the scenario. So in such a case, what I can do is I can just delete, let's say, this thing, and let's say these two prompts. Now let's say if I feel that, let's say, this prompt is sufficient, I can just keep it, or let's say I can even delete this and enter a new prompt. Right. So let's say let's try doing that. One second. So let's say this is the prompt that I entered, and I'll just wait for the LLM to respond over here. Yeah, so let's consider, let's say this is the it's a response that is there. If I'm satisfied with this response, I can directly go ahead and accept it. So instead of sending it back for revision to the annotator, what I've done is I have made the changes myself and accepted. So in this case, I can see this classification. Let's say if there was no changes required, I would have clicked over here. Let's say accept with no changes. If there were some minor changes, I would have, let's say, selected this one. But in this case, there were major changes required. Let's say I deleted three prompts and then enter the prompt myself again. Right? So in this case, this is based on your best judgment, whichever let's say classification you want to put this task into as a reviewer. Right. So let's say I would put this into accept with my major changes. Right. Now if I just go back to this project, now the task is gone from unreviewed, and it would I will be able to see it in this accepted with major changes tab, because I accepted it with major changes. Right? So this is the basic flow as a reviewer, and mostly these are the same buttons which you would have been looking at in the annotation task flow. Just that the update button has been replaced by these two things. Now, yeah, as of now, like, do you have any clarification, any doubts so far in this particular explanation? Okay. Okay, I would consider this as a clear thing because that was not much of a complex thing. So what I will do now is I will just log in using the annotator's account, the annotator who had worked on these tasks, and then just show you how, let's say, I can make the changes as an annotator. Yeah, let's say now I have logged in using the annotator account, the annotator who submitted these tasks over here. Now, if I just go to this, so now I can see these two tasks, these two tabs, right? Let's say I want to just work as an annotator right now, so I will switch, like, keep myself to this tab. If I want to work as a reviewer, let's say, then I can switch to this tab as well, right? So now let's say if I just go to this tab, annotation task tab, if I go over here and go to be revised filter and click apply, I can see there are various tasks which are sent back by the reviewer to me for correction in this. Right? Now, let's say if I just click on the start labeling now, I will be able to see these tasks over here which are sent back by the reviewer. Now, in this case, let's say this is the task which is sent back by the reviewer. If I just check this notes over here, there have been some notes sent by the reviewer. Right? So in this case, let's say I feel, let's say this task is correct, or let's say any changes are required as per the notes part, then I will make those changes. Let's say if, let's say, uh, I just want to get this in Hindi, for example. Right? Let's consider this. I will delete this prompt. One second. Okay. So let's consider this was a scenario. Now I've made these changes, and let's wait for the LLM to respond. Okay. So yeah, so the model had responded me, and if I'm satisfied with this, I can, let's say, as an annotator, I can also add my notes over here. Made the required I can also, let's say, use these formatting text. Let's say if I just, if, if the task requires, I can just make these changes as well. So now let's say I have finalized this thing and I want to submit this task back to the reviewer for a review. I will just click on this update button and this task will go to the reviewer as an unreviewed task again. Right. So this is a flow of interaction between the reviewer and an annotator using these notes tab, and the reviewer can, let's say, in this task, let's say you have added two prompts, please correct and add only one prompt. Let's say, let's consider this task. Now I will just delete the prompt over here. Yeah. So in this case, let's say I feel this is sufficient, and done. Okay. So let's say this is the case. Now I've submitted this task. Now if I just go back to these tasks, let's say if I just check the project again. One second. Yeah, if I just check this project again, I can see, let's say if I just go to be revised task. Earlier there were three to be revised tasks. Now there's only one to be revised task. So the other two tasks that I've updated again will go to the labeled state again, and they will go to the reviewer again. Now let me just log in using the reviewer account again. Yeah, in this case, let's say I've logged in as a reviewer. The tasks which I sent back for revision, those were sent back to the annotator and they submitted again. Hence, they are now displaying over here as unreviewed. So, if I now check, let's say, the to be revised task from a reviewer perspective, now it will only show one task. Earlier, it was three. So all these things from the manager's perspective can be tracked from the reports part, and yeah, I think that's all which covers up everything. So based on which tab you work on, let's say annotation task tab or review task tab, you will be working on the required flow. Right? So that is the main idea over here. I think I was clear. If you have any doubts, any clarifications, I'm free to answer. Over to you. Yeah, so once a reviewer accepts a task, let's say either accept with no changes or minor changes or major changes, then only it will be considered as a, let's say, accepted task, and then only it would be submitted completely. Till then, it's still dangling between annotator or reviewer. So till it's not submitted by the reviewer. Hmm. Mhm. No, no. So anytime the review flow can be enabled anytime. Maybe I'll just show it to you. Let's consider this particular project. Um, so in this case, let's say the review flow is enabled right now, but let's say let's consider some other project. For example, this project, right? Ayush Marathi. So in this case, there are 100 tasks which are completed by Ayush. If I just go to the project settings and go to this advanced, I can change this project stage to review stage. Once I do that, and I go back to the project, I can see the review task flow is also enabled now. I can add reviewer to this project, and then they can just start working on right away. So all the 100 tasks which are submitted by Ayush can be considered for reviewer, whoever is added over here. And whenever this reviewer accepts it, let's say, only then it would be considered as an completed task. Or anytime, let's say, if let's say I've started this review process, and now I, let's say, as a manager, let's say you feel like review is not required for this particular project, then you can just again go to this advance and let's say just switch it back to the annotation stage. Now the review, all the tasks which were reviewed, their progress would be saved, but the review floor will not be required to mark a task as completed. Hmm. Yeah, any other clarification, anyone? Okay. Yeah. So I think this explains the crux of what it was, and yeah, it would be very easy. Let's say once you start using it. So yeah, we can just let's say you can let me know if there are any clarifications or anything.